Bench, his face already flushed with irritation. His reputation for harsh rulings was well known, but lately his behavior had become even more erratic. Especially in cases involving conservative figures, a court clerk approached hesitantly. "Your Honor, Vice President Vance has arrived for his testimony." Davis's expression soured instantly. "Well, isn't that special?" he sneered, making no effort to hide his disdain. "Make sure he knows this isn't the Senate floor in my courtroom. His title means nothing." The atmosphere shifted the moment JD Vance entered. JD Vance moved with quiet dignity, nodding respectfully to the court staff as he approached the witness stand. But Judge Marshall Davis watched him like a hawk, drumming his fingers against the bench, his irritation already palpable. The tension in the courtroom was thick. Everyone in the gallery knew what this was really about. Davis didn't just dislike conservatives, he despised them. And JD Vance, a Trump ally sitting right in front of him, that was fuel on the fire. Davis leaned forward, voice dripping with contempt. "Let's get something straight." The courtroom fell silent. "I don't care what position you hold in Washington in this courtroom. I am the law. Is that clear?" Mr. Vance JD met the judge's gaze, unshaken crystal. "Clear, Your Honor. I'm here simply as a witness to the truth." "Truth," Davis scoffed. "We'll see about that." He turned to the defense table, his mood already souring further. "Now, let's get this circus started." The moment the defense attorney began his opening statement, Davis cut him off for the record. "I'm already tired of the political theatrics in my courtroom." His eyes flicked toward Vance. "This isn't a campaign rally," the attorney tried again. "Your Honor, we're simply establishing the context of Mr. Sterling's charitable." Davis barked out a mocking laugh. The context is that your client is accused of tax evasion, period. I don't need a history lesson about his so-called charitable work." Every time the attorney mentioned Sterling's community contributions, Davis shut him down with increasing hostility. "Irrelevant, move on. I won't warn you again." The gavel slammed down repeatedly, so much so that the court reporter struggled to keep up. But when it was JD Vance's turn to testify, Davis's behavior became outright unhinged. "Stand up straight when you take the oath." He snapped through. Vance's posture was already perfect, and speak clearly. "I won't have any political doublespeak in my court." The condescension was obvious, but Vance didn't. "Flinch, Your Honor. I can attest to Mr. Sterling's financial transparency regarding the Faith and Family Foundation." Davis rolled his eyes theatrically. "Oh, here we go. Another conservative fairy tale about family values." The gallery shifted uncomfortably. Even the prosecution looked uneasy at how blatantly the judge was broadcasting his bias. But Davis wasn't finished. He leaned forward, his face turning a deeper shade of red. "I've seen enough rich conservatives try to hide their money behind charitable facades. Your presence here doesn't impress me." "Mr. Vice President," then with a smirk, he added, "in fact, it makes me question the defendant's character." Even more, a low murmur ran through the courtroom. The judge wasn't even pretending to be impartial anymore. JD Vance remained composed, his calmness only seeming to infuriate Davis more. The judge's hands trembled slightly as he shuffled through his papers, his eyes darting toward a specific stack of documents on his desk. That's when Vance delivered the first real blow. "I have here," he continued, "steadily documented evidence of Mr. Sterling's charitable contributions, including the March meetings." Davis nearly jumped out of his seat. "Those records are inadmissible." He practically shouted, though no one had even objected. The courtroom fell into stunned silence. A few jurors exchanged uncertain glances. The defense attorney stood cautiously. "Your Honor, on what grounds don't you dare question my rulings?" Davis's face was now bright red. "One more word, and you'll be joining your client in contempt." The prosecutor shifted uncomfort. This wasn't judicial discretion anymore. This was a personal vendetta. JD Vance spoke up, his voice still firm, yet respectful. "Your Honor, these documents were properly submitted during discovery." Davis let out a bitter chuckle. "Oh, were they? And I suppose your fancy White House connections had nothing to do with that." Then, narrowing his eyes, he sneered. "Let me tell you something about your kind. Mr. Vice President, you think you can waltz into my courtroom with your political privilege and objection." "Your Honor." The defense attorney had finally found his courage, but before he could even finish his objection, Davis slammed the gavel down so hard that it echoed through the room. "Sit down," he bellowed. The courtroom fell deathly silent. The jury, the gallery, even the prosecution sat, frozen. For the first time, it was clear Judge Davis wasn't in control of this courtroom anymore. His rage had given him away, and JD Vance he had just exposed. "It's silence!" Davis roared, slamming his gavel so hard the sound ricocheted through the chamber. "This is completely inappropriate." His face was red, his breathing heavy. But JD Vance remained unfazed, his expression unreadable. "I will not be lectured about appropriateness in my own court, especially not by some conservative puppet." And his "Your Honor," Vance interjected smoothly. "Perhaps we should discuss the specific contents of the March 15th meeting." The shift in Davis's demeanor was instant and striking. The rage in his face flickered, replaced by something else. Was it fear? His hand, still gripping the gavel, froze midair. He stared at Vance as if truly seeing him for the first time. "Those meetings are not relevant to these proceedings." He stammered, his voice suddenly less certain, but his eyes kept darting to a particular folder on his bench, one that seemed to have appeared that very morning. "Not relevant?" Vance asked quietly, leaning forward. "That's interesting, Your Honor, considering those meetings directly involve charitable contributions to enough." Davis slammed both hands on his bench, the sound echoing in the stunned silence. "One more word about those meetings, and I'll have you removed." The courtroom watched in disbelief as the judge's composure continued to crumble. His hands were visibly shaking as he shuffled papers, desperate to regain control. His voice took on a frantic edge. "In fact, I'm holding you in contempt right now. You think your position protects you? You're nothing but a Trump lackey in an expensive suit." A murmur swept through the gallery. The prosecutor shifted in his seat, looking more uncomfortable by the second. The court officers exchanged uncertain glances. JD Vance never raised his voice. He didn't have to. "Your Honor, my position has nothing to do with this." He reached into his briefcase. "But since you mentioned protection, perhaps we should discuss the Liberty Foundation's protection payments." Davis's face went from red to white. In an instant, his jaw clenched, his breathing hitched. "How dare you?" His voice cracked. "I mean, what payments there were. No guards removed this man from my courtroom. The court officers didn't move. Everyone saw what was happening." Now Vance calmly pulled out a stack of documents. "Actually, Your Honor, I have some very interesting bank records here." He held them up, letting the room take them in. "Would you like to explain the monthly deposits from offshore accounts that coincidentally align with your rulings against conservative defendants?" "Shut up," Davis's outburst was primal, his last attempt to maintain control. "You have no right, no authority. I am the law here. Me, not some conservative bootlicker who." Vance raised another document. "Your signature on these authorization forms suggests." "Otherwise, Your Honor." Davis lunged forward, pointing a trembling finger at Vance. "You planted those. This is a setup, a conservative conspiracy." 2. He caught himself, but it was too late. The courtroom gasped. "A conspiracy?" Vance repeated softly. Interesting choice of words. "Your Honor, especially given your private meetings with certain activist groups." Davis was practically foaming at the mouth. "Now I will not be interrogated in my own court." His voice cracked. "You think you can come in here with your smug face and your evidence?" He spat the last word, like it was poison. Vance, ever composed, turned to another page. "Evidence," he echoed, "that shows a disturbing pattern." He glanced toward the jury, like the Thompson case last month, where a small business owner lost everything because you wouldn't allow evidence of his charitable work to be presented. Just like today, Davis let out a hysterical laugh. The Thompson case, that conservative fraud, deserved what he got. They all do. These people think they can hide behind their so-called faith and family values. The room fell into stunned silence. Davis's own words hung in the air like a death sentence. Vance barely blinked, or he continued, pulling out another document. "Perhaps we should discuss the Wilson hearing where you mysteriously sealed all records just hours after meeting with representatives from the Liberty Foundation." The judge's face twitched violently. His lips parted, but no words came out. "How do you know about—" He stopped abruptly, realizing his slip. Vance tilted his head. "Know about what, Your Honor? The meeting or the $100,000 in your offshore account the next day?" Davis's entire body went rigid. The gavel slipped from his grasp, clattering against the bench. The prosecutor stood up abruptly, finally realizing what he was witnessing. The jury members exchanged glances, their decision already made. The judge had lost more than his temper. He had lost everything. The gallery erupted in murmurs, the sound swelling like a rising tide. Davis slammed his gavel down repeatedly, but each strike felt more desperate than the last order. "I will have order," his voice cracked with panic. "This is all fabricated, a conservative plot to like Mrs. Anderson's case." Vance pressed on his tone, steady, a grandmother who lost her life savings. "Because you wouldn't let her explain where the money came from. Interesting how the company that sued her donated to your re-election campaign just weeks before." "Shut up." Davis screamed, his composure completely shattered. "You have no right, no authority. I am the law here, me know Your Honor." Vance's calm voice cut through the chaos. "You're not the law you're supposed to serve. It like when you took your oath of office the same day you opened that account." In the Cayman, Davis shot up from his seat, his robes disheveled, pointing wildly at Vance guards. "Arrest this man for contempt. Seize those documents, all of them. Now, what are you waiting for? I gave you an order." The court officers hesitated, exchanging uneasy glances. Something had changed before they do. "That, Your Honor," Vance continued, unbothered. "Perhaps we should discuss why you're so eager to seize these particular documents." "I don't have to explain myself to you." Davis snarled, his wild pacing behind the bench made him look more like a caged animal than a judge. "I am a federal judge. My decisions are final. My authority is absolute." Vance leaned back slightly, almost amused. "Absolute authority, Your Honor, seems to be a recurring theme with you. Just like in the Williams case last week, where you ordered all evidence of your private meeting sealed." Davis froze mid-stride. "How did you—" He stopped, his lips going tight. "Those records were supposed to be—" He caught himself again, but the damage was done. Vance tilted his head. "Supposed to be what Your Honor destroyed, like the records from the Liberty Foundation meetings enough." Davis roared, his face contorted with fury. "You self-righteous conservatives think you can come into my courtroom and expose his breath." Hitched, he had said too much. Exposé. What exactly? Vance pressed the systematic abuse of judicial power, the coordinated targeting of conservative defendants, or perhaps the payments you've been receiving too. I said, "Silence." Davis snapped completely. He grabbed his gavel and hurled it across the courtroom, narrowly missing his own clerk. "You want to talk about abuse of power," Davis shouted, practically frothing at the mouth. "I'll show you abuse of power, officers. I want this man in handcuffs now, and anyone who refuses my order will be joining him in jail." The courtroom had become eerily silent. Even Davis's heavy breathing seemed amplified. In the thick, tense air, the officers still hadn't moved. Their faces showed a clear conflict between duty and conscience. Davis leaned forward, his eyes dark with rage. "Last chance, Mr. Vance," he snarled, his voice dripping with venom. "Hand over those documents and submit to arrest, or I'll make sure you never set foot in another courtroom again." Vance merely flipped open another folder. "That's an interesting threat, Your Honor. Almost identical to what you told Sarah Mitchell before dismissing her discrimination case, right after you met with CEO James Peterson." Davis's face went ghostly pale. "What? How did you?" Peterson F. continued, unfazed, "who deposited $500,000 into your Cayman account. The same Peterson who hosted that private yacht meeting last month, the one where 7 other judges were present, all of whom mysteriously ruled in his favor. The following week, Davis's hands curled into fists. "You have no right," he shrieked, spittle flying from his mouth. "Those records are privileged. Those conversations were private." Vance's tone turned sharp. "Private like the recordings from your chambers." Davis staggered. What recordings? The courtroom collectively held its breath. Vance glanced toward the clerk's desk. "The ones where you explicitly told your clerk to lose evidence that would have exonerated 3 conservative defendants." A sharp gasp came from the other side of the room. The clerk, still seated at her desk, burst into tears. "He made me do it," she sobbed. "He said he'd ruin my career if I didn't." Silence, Davis thundered, but his authority was crumbling. His face was beet red, vein bulging his entire body, trembling. "None of this is admissible? You can't prove, actually?" Vance interrupted smoothly. "Everything was obtained legally." He flipped open another page. "Your own security cameras caught the midnight document, shredding your own phone, recorded the threats, your own signature, authorized the transfers." Davis lunged forward, reaching desperately across his bench. "Give me those files I order you to order." Denied. The new voice came from the back of the courtroom. Every head turned. A team of FBI agents strode down the center aisle, their badges flashing under the bright courtroom lights. The lead agent voice rang out clear and unshakable. "This court is now under federal investigation." He locked eyes with Davis. "Judge Marshall, Davis, stay where you are." Davis's breath hitched. "You can't do this," he shrieked, but no one was listening. The reign of Judge Marshall, Davis, was over. Davis shrieked, backing away from his bench. I have immunity. I have connections. Do you know who I am?" The lead FBI agent stepped forward, unfazed. "Oh, we know exactly who you are, Your Honor," replied coolly, "including your recent meetings with the Liberty Foundation, your offshore accounts, and your coordinated efforts to target conservative defendants." Davis's eyes darted wildly around the courtroom, searching for an escape. "This is all a setup, a conservative plot to a plot." Vance rejected. "Quietly, the only plot here was your systematic abuse of power. Your Honor, every biased ruling, every backroom deal, every attempt to silence the truth, it all ends today." Davis pointed a trembling finger at Vance. "You planned this. You and your Trump-loving conspirators set me up." Vance shook his head. "No, Your Honor, you set yourself up." He took a step forward, his voice measured, firm. "We simply gave you enough rope to hang yourself with your own words and actions. Today have confirmed everything we already knew." FBI agents approached the bench, but Davis wasn't done fighting. "I am a federal judge. You can't arrest me." His voice cracked as he struggled against the inevitable. "I am the law. I am the law." The agents had to physically restrain him as he made a last-ditch effort to lunge toward his chambers. "You don't understand," he screamed. "They made me do it. The Foundation, they have dirt on everyone. If I talk now," the lead FBI agent raised an eyebrow. "But that's interesting. Tell us more about this Foundation." "Your Honor." Davis's mouth snapped shut for the first time. His mind caught up with his panic. His face twisted into a sneer, his hands still trembling. "I want my lawyer, and when this is over, you'll all pay for this humiliation." Vance stepped forward, unfazed. Speaking of payment, he pulled another document from his folder. "Perhaps you'd like to explain these transfer records." Davis's breathing hitched. Vance held the paper up for the court to see 7 judges all receiving similar payments. "On the same days you did all ruling against conservative defendants in coordinated cases," the gallery erupted in shocked whispers. This wasn't just about one corrupt judge, it was an entire network. Vance's voice carried through the stunned courtroom. "The evidence suggests that this was a systematic effort to use the judicial system as a political weapon." He turned back to Davis, his gaze unshaken. "But justice isn't meant to be a weapon. Your Honor, it's meant to be a shield protecting all Americans." Equally, Davis stopped struggling. The fight had drained from his face. His final realization had set in behind him. Court officers sealed his chambers for investigation. His clerk was already in tears, confessing everything. "He made me do it." She sobbed as agents questioned her. "He said he'd ruin my career if I didn't." Davis's final walk of shame out of his own courtroom was more than just an arrest. It was a symbol that justice had caught up with him. But as the agents led him away in handcuffs, he turned one last time to face JD Vance. His voice was cold, bitter. "Hollow, you think this changes anything?" Vance met his stare, unwavering. "There will always be others like me. You can't stop us all." Vance nodded slightly. "You're right about one thing. There will always be those who abuse power." He paused, letting the weight of his words settle. But there will also always be those who stand up against them. That's what makes our justice system work. Not the corruption you represent, but the courage of those who fight against it. The aftermath was swift and far-reaching. Davis's arrest triggered a wave of investigation across multiple jurisdictions. The network of corrupt judges began to crumble as more evidence surfaced and witnesses came forward. But perhaps the most powerful moment came when Sterling's case was dismissed. The new judge reviewing the evidence Davis had tried so desperately to suppress found no basis for the charges, and in the end, justice wasn't decided by those who sought to control it, but by those willing to defend it. And if you believe standing up for truth and accountability, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more inspiring stories. God bless you, and God bless America.